I mean, zero. It's like ones, and then down here at the end. Oh, yeah. Zero. No. Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I get it. Get rid of the get rid of. The order, I thought it was the black, maybe it's the days of the to the indivisible, which liberty and justice. Mr. President, take a roll call.
Thank you, Mr. President. Roll call, Council President, Mr. John Hendricks,
Present.
Vice President John Polk,
Present.
Councilmember Bobby Osborne. The minutes of the last meeting have been distributed. There's not much on the agenda for tonight, except I think all asset management plans. Okay. And that's about it.
All right. Thank you. You guys have had time to still be working from the 2026 meeting. Still here. Okay. Utility.
Our second motion that improvement.
The next motion, Bobby seconds. All those in favor of approving the minutes? Aye. Toby? Well, tonight, we're picking out on the agenda under utility, with the water rates. Just that. And it's
All right, thank you very much. You want me to, go over the rate study now, and then you want me to talk through the asset management plan that was distributed either last week or what time, but I can do that too. If you want. Go through the rate study first. So this is really a follow-up. By the way, it's kind of a little bigger, so you can see this is really a follow-up to work that we've been working with you on for 6-7 months or so now. We originally distributed an initial draft of the rate study back summer of last year. Gave you some options to talk about that, and then based on that, gives some decisions on how you want to proceed. That final report. I won't spend a huge amount of time going through the report, simply already been through it a couple times, but I'll go through it and I'll hit the hot points and just kind of talking through. So starting on page 2, as we went through and looked at the finances of the utility, what we do is look at a 12-month period. We just look and see what were the finances involved during that period. Based on that, what do we think is going to happen going forward? What changes do we take into account as we think about what that financial activity is going to look like? So in our case, since we started last year, we were looking at calendar year 2024. So that's what we've made adjustments to try to get a sense of what we think the rates need to be to take care of operations. So page 2 just shows you the cash balances that you had at the end of 2024. And all total within the utility fund at that point, you had a water utility fund, you had a little over 1. There at the top of the page, the first column. Bonds that are outstanding right now, and with those bonds, the ordinance that authorized those puts various requirements on the funds that you have, but identifies what sorts of minimum balances you need to have at any point in time. That's in the middle column, about $661,000. So you had right around $957,000 over and above the bare minimum that to satisfy your bond requirement. So it's good that we're above that bare minimum. Get that low because that really takes a big financial problem. So in okay shape there as far as cash. On page 3, we start to look at the operating costs of the utility, and here we're looking at the operating disbursement that what it takes to run the utility on a daily basis. So during 2024, you spent $1,066,000. We've gone through, made some adjustments both up and down to based on what we think we can go forward, and are estimating about $1,055,000 going forward. Salary, benefits, and power pension, all the sorts of things. Those adjustments are detailed on pages 4, 5, 4 and 5. And again, if you want me to go into this more, please stop me. That we've kind of been through this. Pages 6 and 7 show you the amortization schedule for the outstanding bonds. These bonds were issued to Rural Development back in 2012, and annual payment is about $99,000 per year. Really good interest rate of 2.5%, and if you remember, those bonds were issued over a 40-year period. So you can see on page 7, final maturity on those is January 1 of 2056. So quite a ways yet, but those finance assets that will be in service likely much longer than that, maybe 50 years ago. On page 8, we've got your capital improvement program for the next 5 years. We've got in there the cost of the project that I'll talk about here in a second on the next page, but then also some other improvements that you plan to do on a going forward basis each year. Those total, after we take out what we were thinking about financing through the SRF program, they total about $1.8 million a year, or $1.8 million in total. And so over that 5-year period, about $362,000. They upside replacements work at the more. Page 9, then this gets into the larger project that you were considering with your engineers about taking some of those distribution system improvements that were really designed to liability, bundling those together, going to the state revolving fund and financing a number of those projects all together and working to try to get them done in one big batch. So, and again, these numbers, have not been updated from the engineer either. Um, Unless the timing has changed, I think they were gonna be doing design and permitting here in spring. And then, looking into early summer, early. So all total, had a variety of projects that are all total about $9,141,000. Page 10 then gets to, kind of the summary of all the analysis up to this point. It lays out what the statutory revenue requirements are for the utility. So that is what you need on an annual basis, to operate the system, how much money can you take. Starting at the top of the page, you've got the operation and maintenance disbursements that I mentioned a few pages ago, 55,000 per year. You've got that debt service on the outstanding bond issue of about 98,900. We've got debt service on the new bond issue, so that 9,141. We assumed that that would get financed over 35 years with SRF, and we assumed the interest rate of 4.25 at this point. That is to be determined, but that's what we hope is a reasonable estimate at this point. We won't know that until, probably the earliest we would know late July, early August. SRF operates on the state's fiscal year, so their fiscal year wraps up because they'll take all of the projects that they've received, they'll rescore and rank all those based on environmental factors and then public investor. The ability to fund first coming fiscal year. In addition to just making principal and interest payments on that debt, we'll have to fund a debt service reserve. You already have a reserve for the outstanding bonds, but that requirement will go up a little bit, so that's about 7,600. And the capital improvement plan for all the things that we're going to do outside of the bond funding, that $363,000 per year to take care of that over the 5 years. So from that, then we subtract out some miscellaneous receipts, interest, and miscellaneous receipts, and right there in the middle of the page, we get to what's labeled net annual revenue requirements, $1,973,000. That's the amount that the rates and charges that you bill to your customers on a monthly basis need to generate to be able to take care of all the requirements. During the test year, you had water sales of about $1,330,000. You had fire protection receipts of about 47,900, so all total 1,377,000. So we're short just under $600,000 to take care of all of these different requirements. Current bill right now for 4,000 gallons, current average monthly residential bill is $25.59, which is very low. When I look at rates statewide and look at where other utilities are at, pretty low. The increase necessary to make up that $600,000 gap would increase the bill about $11 a month. So that would go up to $36 per month before that. To that in a second. One of the other things that you have to look at was tap fee, because it had been some time since we had changed tap fee for new customers, and so we calculated that. This is the calculation of that on page 11. So we've got 2,500 for a short tap and then 2,000 for a long tap. That's part of the something. Or actually a long tap. Boring about the biggest on top of that. Page 12, getting back to the increase in the rate at $11. What we talked about in the last meeting that I was here, and what we wanted to consider was breaking that up into two different phases. So not doing the full increase right now, doing two different phases. So we would do about half of it now. Once you adopt a new rate ordinance and then you pick up the other half. And that will phase that out and still be able to move forward and trying to balance those two things, you need to get the work done, but also not wanting to get customers any harder than the have to, with the same in the way. That was kind of some thinking on the rate change itself, and then on the very last page, you can kind of see a comparison. You put together a comparison for what those rates are for 4,000 gallons in the surrounding area, and you can see right behind the on this. Couple spots, and then even after the final phase, you'd still be less than Clinton, less than Sullivan, less than Tahoe, less than less than Washington, with a little bit more than the. But still, really, that $36 is still pretty fair than what it's sorry, statewide, I think. We had provided the proposed rates in the 2 phases, plus the acting to the town attorney. I think he's looked at the proposed ordinance and made there some areas or other changes you'd like to see or have questions about those. That would be our recommendation for moving forward with the rate. And whenever you're ready to
See, all the question I do have, we talked about splitting this up, obviously phase 1 and phase 2, and not do the full increase until phase 2. But would we go ahead and approve the full increase at once, and then once we get to that point with SRF and know we're getting that funding, we initiate
great.
that is.
So great question, very good question. So yes, the ordinance, the way the ordinance is laid out right now, it would have both phases in it. So you would go forward and approve both phases. The issue with SRF is that they have become extremely competitive. And it's somewhat difficult to get within their fundable range and get some of their funding. So it's possible that we may not get funding in the fiscal year coming home after the lot. And what we may need to do is either join one of the pool financings where they take a group of utilities that didn't score high enough to get their subsidized money, but still ready to deal with the project. They pool those together. They go out SRF at the state level, those financing and loans that we have to. They may do one of those this fall. Usually they've been doing 2 pool financings a year. But we may not get that funding right away. We also may need to within a year. So what we could do is adopt the ordinance with those full rates in it, and then implement that second phase when we're ready to go. Just need to have that in place so that there's enough time to accumulate funding. So yes, we could potentially delay the implementation date of phase 2. We also potentially adjust that rate down. We have to do the process of rate. But if the rates actually came in less, project cost came in less, we got a better interest rate than 4.25%, and it was decent enough amount, we could adjust those rates down a little bit.
Yeah, but I'm just looking at the utility capital improvement section of this, and obviously we're talking about the just over $9 million for this for the sheet, and a lot of that's dependent on SRF. If that wasn't to happen, if something fell through with SRF and we could not get that, when I look at 27, 28, 29, I see less than $400,000 a year that we would spend in projects. could we still continue? Or would it be a good idea to continue with the full rate increase and put that money back so that every year we could do $400,000 worth of improvement? Just a yearly basis, if that's all right, know.
So, well, let me jump to the capital, to the asset management. Because I think what we've got identified in the capital improvement plan here, and the rate study, the page that you're looking at, I think has fewer projects that are in that actual asset. Or other things that could be done, needed to be done, but maybe further out in time. Those show up in that asset. That's a 20-year time horizon that we're looking at there. So to your question, if things don't work out, we don't get financing, yeah, you could go ahead and implement that second phase and use what we essentially have at that point is about $550,000 per year additional that you could use for annual replacement. Right, start not at something that's involved. So yeah.
I mean, regardless of the way I would think this, we'll want to do this so that we can get these improvements done, obviously, all at once. Try to get the majority of it knocked out all at once. But if that for some reason falls flat, I still want to know that if we're going to ask our customers to spend this money, that I got the system that we could still see improvements.
Yeah, you definitely can do that. Obviously, depending on the cost of each individual project, you know, it may take you a year or two to build up enough to do one particular thing or not. It's just going to depend on the how you live.
Also said if SRF wouldn't work out, there's other.
They're out there. I would say if you want to do that, but you have at this point, you've got lots of options. Like I try to, when I'm advising clients, try to set things up so that you have them out there for as long as possible before we shut them. Practically one goal. There's all sorts of things that we could do if that's our output. Other avenues to get funding. And I agree. On that boulevard, you know, that might go on won't increase.
Well, we're not voting anything tonight. This is just, I'm crazy, bring that up so we understand what we're asking for.
Yeah, your process is with change your rate of RFP. So you have first reading on the other, have to have a scheduled public hearing. We typically come to that public hearing as well, help answer questions. I agree with you. We are the lowest. Yeah, you got. You're in great shape as far as. Sure. You're gonna be well. Sure. Thank you. Very much.
Real quick second. We'll have a lot of people here tonight, I'm sure, when that's time for the public hearings, we'll have quite a few more. But I think this is kind of a good time to just have a small staff of people in here for the community. What you guys have, what you think of those questions? Over this. how do you guys, I guess, feel about? I think, you know, they say, we have this paper in front of us that shows, this could be a 33% increase. Right? And it'll essentially be about $25. Six, that's we get that big 23% number. But like Scott said, if we do total project, we're raising the rate $11.05. Is that feasible?
$5. Cold or that's water, but they come to set that sewage portion of the hundred. So it's 1105, it's told not to go to the over 2 inches basically.
Over 2 acres, right? And, you know, like Scott said, so, you know, you can kind of look at it like we're gonna, you know, phase one, you know, we're gonna raise $5.50 and then say 6 months, maybe. Absolutely.
But I think
And what is the average you see in our little area, like 20 per real?
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, I know you said it, but I don't really.
So right now, Brazil obviously would be kind of our, well, actually, our next closest is Rose, something. But they're at 54.97.
closest to our payment is Stockton, we're at 49.35.
Terrible. PG America, to get water from their company, $3.69 a month. Still, they're about $3 lower than us after we get the increase. 34 per person.
Almost sounds like we're due to have to go up to maintain our system, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, if we got an old system and we got
I would
problems,
say that,
you know, out west.
and I would say a big portion of this. So much anything the system is that. And bring this to the customers, our whole plan of finance is to take out a. So that we could, we large scale project. We do projects periodically, but obviously with the kind of money that we bring in and our customer base, it's very difficult to do big projects all at once. So, you know, when we had Baker Tilly start working these numbers, I was worried. I think, you know, let's see, I was expecting to see some big numbers come back. And when they came back at the numbers that they did, I personally felt pretty good that we were gonna be able to do large scale projects and see the system. We wouldn't have to be concerned with possibly having to look at, as you said, but selling out good. Small community work. And so I'm very happy with this. Obviously, we have a small group. It seems like. Essentially, I'm really good, but have some public hearings. Obviously, we got a lot more people who are going to be here that are going to have questions.
Sorry, you were over there. Or asset management fund as well. I can go through that if you want. I don't know if everybody's had a chance to look at it. I have to look at it on the phone. Doing a calculator.
I have a big problem.
Yeah, you don't need yours.
I have it right here.
So that the asset management plan, like I said, before, goes along with SRF financing. They now require it. What it is a 20-year horizon that you look at to see what does your system need over that time frame to be able to continue to operate and maintain service to customers. So this started with your engineers looking at the system, identifying what sorts of items are out there that need to be addressed, and then they pass it off to us to look at how would you pay for all that? And so throughout this entire report, we've got the project that we just talked about, and then additional things that would need to be done beyond that. And so when we look at the total funding that they've got in here, total projects are about 35.5 million for the planning study 2025 through 2044. Some of those we're doing now. The 9.1 million we would do through the financing now. Then we would have 11.7 or so that we fund from cash on hand over a 5-year period. And then there's $14.7 million of projects that are out in further use that we would address. So a lot of this follows along with the analysis that we did with the rate study, same sort of time frame. So I'm on page 4 now, what's later in this page 4. So the first line is really small to read, but this is the utility capital improvement program. So again, the list of projects that the engineers identified. Page 4 is 2025 through 2034. And that's about almost $23 million of projects. 9.1 of that is the financing. Another 9.6 of that would get deferred to later periods, and we have about 4.1 million that we try to get done beyond this finance project. And then page 5 shows you 2035 through the end of the study, 2044. So again, all total, there's about $35.6 million of projects, 9.1 we finance now, 14.8 would get deferred out for those later years. So we'd be looking at doing about 11.7 million for 5 or 6 years in addition to the 5. Page 6 is the same project cost schedule we looked at in the rate study. Page 7 actually is a proposed amortization schedule for what that repayment would look like. Going forward, 40%, $506,000 per year. I think page 7 and 8. Page 9 shows you what the combined debt service would look like. So with the 2012 bonds and with the new bonds, your annual payment in debt service for the first 20 to 30 years would be about $605,000. And then page 10 and 11, page 10 and 11 are really where our part in the asset management plan process comes into play, because this is what SRF is looking at from a financial perspective. And it also kind of gives you a preview of what things look like going forward. What this does is over that same time period, so 2025 through 2034 on page 10, second batch of 2025. Kind of shows you what receipts are coming in on an annual basis. That's the first 2 or 3 lines. What are you spending annually for operation and maintenance? We get net receipts, that's right in the middle of the page, net operating receipts. Then we've got some non-operating receipts that you have coming in, so interest, miscellaneous fees, bond proceeds, all those sorts of things. And then money going out, so principal and interest payments. What we're trying to do is kind of show what would your beginning and ending cash flow look like over that time period as we go through and look at how you might pay for these improvements. And so what we're trying to do is give you an idea of approximately when you would need to start to continue to take care of the improvements. So in 2026 and 27, you see the first two increases there that we talked about tonight. And then you start to see out in some of the later years, just to keep up with things, and keep up with the inflation assumptions that we've made, we start to have small increases every so often for future improvements, future expenses and things. So those are just estimates. That's that's gonna depend on what happens, how inflation plays out, how some of the kind of the project plays out. But it kind of gives you a sense of where things are headed. So interestingly, as we were talking about rates for other customers, you don't finally get to the same rate as Terra Pro until all the way at the very end of this in 2044. You get up to about $56, actually 2041. In 2041, we finally hit $56, which is what they're paying right now. Well, obviously, we'll pay over that by then. So again, even with all this work, and including the work that's in addition to the rate study, you're still, going to be ahead of some other utilities in the area in terms of where you're finding. And this doesn't take into account any customer growth or anything like that. You did like the inflation.
Go on, wait,
It's yes. Touch on for it to fall off. That happens. In 2052, you make your last payment. So starting in 2053, your debt service goes from $605,000 down to $500. So you say that that $100,000 a year. Any questions about any of those schedules? What happens with this is, you set it out for you to take a look at. This would get submitted. Needs to be submitted by April 1st. That's around, so we can get in line for that next round of funding. But then we know we can fund that we can. Sure that we've had a chance to read through it thoroughly and comment questions about it. There are a couple other pages here, 13 and 14, that show you what the cash balances would look like over that same remaining tax. Showing you how that would split out between the different things that you have. Try to keep those relatively constant, but make sure that you're building out the appreciation fund, which is what you would do to take care of the improvements that you develop. You try to build that up and maintain a decent balance in there to allow you to do things. Then at the very end, of course, just some historical information and a flow, everything get it along in the rates and targets. Hear me yet? Okay, well, let us know if anything else does come up on that. Otherwise, I think the engineer will submit a plan to us.
Scott, we want to go ahead and establish dates for the public hearing.
Probably We can look at dates, but you probably want to officially do that, and you have further written on the ordinance. So if you're gonna do first reading at your next meeting, then what you typically have, public hearing available. Okay, so yeah, so you have it at your, public hearing for your meeting. Yeah, you'll be required to publish notice here, you'll be required to publish notice in the paper. Anybody that is outside town limits has to be mailed a notice. Playing a turn, so we want to run that by Will just to make sure that, yeah, you'll have a notice. Yep, thank you. Monthly central report today, we have had several man repairs, previously doing a nice job, to be close to the record down here. Polycap Alpha wants a shield on the wind tower. They have talked about this before. I'm against it, I don't want to opinion of the software. They would like their logo on the top of the wind tower facing the front house. But I told them I would bring it before you get out of this. It's probably gonna be heavy. Spend more than equal.
I guess my question with that would be, going to pay a legitimate company, or are they thinking they can look in fund on top of that?
What do we have to pay for it? They still have to bring it before the board.
Why don't they buy that tower for us?
Well, I wonder, before we say yea or nay, we see if we can have maybe a sit down with them and discuss what this is going to look like.
I have a small drawing, it's just a generic logo with no Greek letters in it, and the face of the side of the tower. So it really would be visible from forward. Conversation with you saying, here we go, $100 gallon tank, couple of things, and the guys are fine, I thought a lot more than that, but.
With the actual pricing would be perfect. Because I think that would probably go that I think I don't know the problem is like that. But two, and I think that if we would look at allowing you to do that, that you tell them, hey, we need to get this tower, we think we will. So we're letting on this out. Consider allowing you to do that.
So I will email them back and put it, try to get it set up. There are a few things with rent payment that was probably today with them. We actually released that, I don't know if you want $1,000 to do, that's how we do it. It hasn't been paid for several years, and it's been in the West Plains, we've done it all today. It all worked out.
I'm just making suggestions.
The new phones in the office are working, get updates coming soon. The culvert project there, to west of St. Louis to save the town. It is coming here sooner than later, we do have something here that's maybe cost for that. The water update alone for that will be $70,350 in investment. This is a state project, we have to do our stuff, we don't have an option, we have to say, it has to do it. Glen Tower did have some problems in the cold weather. It had P2 that controls the LT valve, the LT valve for the control valve. Froze, the tower overflowed, had a large dump by stuff on top of it, the area where I placed the line. We used some food safe material to stop it from freezing, but we're working on that. We stopped work on it at the first of fall because the ice falling off and it's more than some stuff there, so stop working on that. The only other thing that I have for water is the ordinance that we've John one three about utility bills and property owners' money. Yes.
Just real quick, Jeremy touched on a little bit of the projects going on down here on 40. Like Jeremy said, we have water and sewer is going to have to be that project. The sewer cost of $6,000. Water's. I talked to Justin Webb. To what we financial statement for our sewer utility for 25 and a financial statement for the water utility for 2025. Submit that to Justin on a letterhead. I'll take care of it. But they essentially have a hardship where of those costs. Our 10% of those costs will be just more than 22,000. We'll do it. Not really being Jeremy both kind of talk. We're not really so much worried about the water side. Obviously, the sewer side, that $156,000 probably. That have to be out of the way. Sorry about you. You got that. They do have they do have things we can have.
And that's the so.
That is good. So Dustin said, chances are we will get it. We felt very good about the fact that we would get it and that those costs down and really like that takes of that cost. But we have to have this. What Dustin sent me over this year. So I guess it would be. That's all I'm going to. All right. So the ordinance. So as you guys know, couldn't say exactly, but a few years ago, they passed a law that said that utility companies could no longer go after landlords if a renter left a large utility bill and walked in. And because of that, we have lost out on substantial amounts of revenue over the last few years. One thing that we were able to find out could be was that we could pass an ordinance that would allow us to force essentially the landlords to keep our utility in their name and not allow them to do anything that would renter decided to leave. They were leaving us. I think for the most part, I'm thinking about some of the people disappointed with that. I'm with you, but I don't think we're going to have too many problems with this. I didn't think it's something that has to be done. We can obviously afford to just keep losing money because managing about. So, this is gonna be ordinance number 02-2026. Gonna be the ordinance amending, our town of Cedarville operates in the Esco Water Works and sanitary sewer service, and whereas the town council finds it necessary to ensure the reliable collection of rates and charges incurred for service for real property, and whereas requiring accounts to be maintained in the same name of the owner of record, and the efficient administration affects the financial stability of the water works. Now therefore be it ordained by the town council of the town of Cedarville, being as follows: Section 1, amendment to 51.16. Section 51.16 of the Code of Ordinances is hereby amended by adding the following new subsections to be codified in the as follows. Account the name of the property owner / responsibility for payment. Notwithstanding any other provision of this code, each account for water or sanitary sewer service furnished by the town shall be established in the name of the owner, served as shown by the record of the county auditor. The property owner shall be liable for and ultimately responsible to the town for the payment of all rates, charges, meter fees, penalties, deposits, and costs of collection arising from service to the property, provided by the owner, 18 or another person. The town may, as a matter of convenience, send duplicate bills or notices to a tenant or occupant. However, the failure of the tenant or occupant to receive and pay such a bill shall not relieve the property. Paid charges may be enforced in any manner permitted by the law, including the discontinuance of service or otherwise provided in credit. Transition of existing accounts. Any water service account that on the effective date of this ordinance is maintained in the name of the tenant or occupant rather than the owner of record shall be permitted to remain in that name on a temporary basis. The waterworks shall transfer such accounts into the name of the property owner upon the earliest of the following events: a change in occupancy of the premise, a request for new service for the reconnection, or 90 days after the effective date of this ordinance. As to the account, the property owner shall be responsible for compliance with all requirements of this chapter. Nothing in this subsection shall be construed to release the property from liability for unpaid charges associated with the service of the owner's property. Section 2, severability. Any provision of this ordinance is held invalid, such as invalidity shall not affect the remaining provision. Section 3, effective date. This ordinance shall be in full force and effect as to be by law on passage in any required publication. Questions of the pertinent ordinance?
I got a question.
Yes,
It really doesn't pertain to me. I'm just curious. So how long do you allow a tenant to go, or obviously, because they're going to try to pass on to their tenant, but if the tenant doesn't pay, for how long before you guys shut the water off?
So
Generally 2 months, I mean, $1 a month before there. That's what they say.
So 2 months. So it's not going to kill a
We try
landlord.
to-
Yeah, okay.
but I think with this, just the way that we have this worded, you know, you could request, and I don't see that we would necessarily have a problem with it, that we would send a duplicate bill to you.
Currently says there's a good
So, yeah, so I think, you know, it'd be fairly easy for us to be able to send that out so that the landlord actually will get their opinion. Right, that would be not. They can come in and pay it up, and that would, I think, be huge. Back of all of this. With the 2 months
Or fine penalties or something.
Right. So, you know, obviously, you know, 90 days after this goes into effect, you know, think me and Jeremy both agree. Stickers, well, not gonna be super huge stickers on this. Uh, You know, you're that the landlords to come in and get that deal switched over to them. After this. Until a tenant moves out. Once that tenant moves out, tenant comes in.
Yes, we have several people that have. You know, for example, they don't have their property. Multiple. As they switch over, I think we just do it, so friendly and switch over to the properties. And if we have drivers. Ignore them. We're not.
So does that, once all the switch over to landlord's names, they switch tenants say every year? Then does that mean that this, I'm gonna lose out on the.
Well, it's deposit will be done. It's just gonna say, when the owners.
Right.
The tenants will be. So we can send you the bill through a tenant. And then same thing with shut off letter, we'll send them currently, when we shut off letter, we send one to a tenant to the owner. If they're over the deal. That way they know that, hey, your tenant is on.
I have some, is that because the deposit escrow is drawing interest for the city? Is your concern on that about the
I was
deposit?
just curious, because
Okay.
now,
If you come in and you own the property, there's no problem. If you're renting, because we won't be actually putting the bill and putting things that we.
Is that gonna affect you guys' revenue though in a,
No, it's a clear account. If they didn't know this is.
so it's non-interest bearing or you have to pass it back? That was a good question.
Number 02-01-2026.
January is the plant produced, 20,445,000 gallons. The plant distributed to the distribution system, 14,668,000. 30,000 gallons. And the minimum day was January 1st, 404,000 gallons. Today, the average for the plant production was 659,519 gallons, and the average daily for that we distributed to the distribution system was 473,161 gallons. And the reason I added the other numbers is we've been going off of what the plant produced, but that's not actually what we're putting out the door when we reach the meters. One is, so that difference there is everything basically where that's how much we use per month is the backlog. We don't have to account for that in our water loss because that's only one is pump versus bid. So this is after the water loss system goes after that. So. And then talking with Cameron earlier, Jeremy, we're gonna start keeping track of our water, like monthly water loss. So. One state wants to do.
All right, some of you know, Terra wastewater voted to no longer pay dollars to read. We read all the water meters and share with their hosts, so we feel very good with that. We're on $1,500. Did go ahead and share this information this month, we will see, they actually have not paid since May. Sorry. The other side of this is also that we pumped it into their sewer, 40 their sewer. They don't know what's the correct amount of like this amount meters, they're kind of putting all of our head to see how we're saying. Let you guys know and see how you guys see it for that. So, keep in mind that we can kind of do it. There were no lift station issues at all this month. Placement on the 40 and 1,550, $156,000. Again, it's a state project. We don't have any control over it. So they can do it. On it. Well, for that part. So that's all I have. Yeah.
On the sewer issue with their wastewater, so there we have droplets that we need. It's kind of a. You know, the sewage treatment coming out here, Welcome. This has been good. It's supposed to be, yeah. Jeremy, I think the direction we need to go. Like Jeremy said, they're holding over our heads. For me to read the they take. I mean, well, see this is. You know, I personally question whether we send them back to that much. Jeremy said that all of the stations currently, all of them, because
They are meters, some of them are, but there's always some issues that they're going to discuss in their day. They own the interceptors from the station that about payments. And when this fully comes, they're in the meter. That all goes through that master meter that we. There are a lot of gray areas, but we figure out which those and advantage. There's several interconnections that don't make sense and why they've been like this for years, but I think we need to figure out what we're up to on.
that's what. Right here, and that's the right, I feel like that is even. Do what we need to do to start thinking of what we are actually from the other stations. That they say is what we're doing, and once we find out. Where another. The amount that we're actually. Oh, we don't want to work against them, obviously. But I think it needs to be fair across the board. They say we're going to do it. Yeah. Basically.
We have infiltration issues, that's small, we have 3 lift stations, and there's a random event, they come, they fill a, we're getting ready to repair one, and we all know about it, we own that. The post office lift station, the rain goes through, that would be very possible to do a search, if I have sanitary, would make sure that's the case, that's the case, we can separate it. There are several small things, but the amount of what it saves we're spending on is important.
We're gonna actually figure out how much, who good we are actually, something's to do. So we need to figure out how much stormwater is going into that.
Well, I think that essentially would be the next step, is once we figure out how much sewer we actually have in that station, that's gonna help us identify the more problem station, where we're seeing a huge uptick. Plus, we can go out and read them on dry days, and then read those meters on days where we get pouring down rain. And that's gonna lead some direction we can take on figuring out what our problems.
There are
Big
big
problems
problems
with it.
share their meter information, which I haven't seen yet, but if we have our, if we have issues in front of water. Also, this spots on 40 that we don't know what's going there, to stay down. Once they leave that grade, it's not stay down, stay down. If it goes into the form, then they're gonna say it's on us, and we'll have to correct it, but it's better than paying for it to be problem.
For you guys. Give us moving forward on figuring out the medium of the lift station. Sorry, I just. Generally, you work on it.
No, I'm having guys recommendation on something about 6 hours instead of monitoring. We do checks on them, but I haven't completed hour meters on them, so it's there with that relevant data. And then when we get access to the meters, there, so there's an angle, get access to the, keep an idea of what's going on. And see if we can have anything somewhere that we don't know about. Absolutely. Project, I thought was the today, if I scheduled to be here Monday, it's trying to be running pipe on the end of the month. So, that can change the weather, but there is hope. The structure is being built, pipe will be here Monday, so there should be some progress. I know Dustin is still working on a few things with pipes and everything else with the pipe, but that's what I have to take to see.
All right, so public comment for the utility, water, sewer, what's the vote? And a motion to close the utility meeting on the town. Amended.
A second.
Don makes a motion, Bob seconds, all those in favor? Any opposed? Guys had a chance to go to the town utility board meeting minutes from January 13th. Adjustments and corrections, anything to approve? Bob made the motion, second, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Aaron?
Howard Flower, plowing, there's lots of events, I think they did a great job on the Chelsea line, but I don't remember the full amount of hours there in that truck, but that truck ran for, I think, 36 hours at one point, they saw. Things started close up, but other than that, it looked great, guys. Just can't thank them enough, they did a great job out there. So, there's talk of possible new duplexes like Tater Town, it would be north of Water, mobile home park. I haven't seen a formal building or close, but I talked about it a couple times. There's talk of traffic congestion out there, some good things running out to the thought. Trash truck did damage of the sidewalk. They have worked with them to get that issue resolved. Also with that being a declared state of emergency during a storm, there's a possibility that we get run back and reduce labor and parts for that storm, so I applied for that. And hopefully we'll get that back, it's only $10,000. There's also a zoning request, Wayne has to go from R5 to R2, 2024 North Main Street. Also, the owner was in here, I did ask them if we found any liens on the property. This is the house that we had pulled down. They found no liens on the property, so we might be able to mind that we benefit of. That is all I have in the plan.
Didn't we file them? And can't we have a paper trail of her? We have all of them. I mean, if we filed it, there has to be one.
He's already taken ownership and he just kind of said that if it wasn't on there, it's filed. We need to look into it. I mean, it's less than $10,000 if it's still like. Turns with the traffic flow on Paper Town.
It's just north, so across,
It's somewhere.
yeah, basically across the mile.
They would actually be building a lane back in there to the duplexes. So
But it's still gonna be part of the same thing, so.
it's different out there. It'd be a lot of difference. Disappointment. I haven't seen anything on paper yet. This is just conversation.
I've county ordinance of years and things, so.
And I like the idea of not having four instances, just one. All the data through questions, so I can figure that out. It's gonna be, get driving. That is what it is. It's the south and one entrance. And then there's a travel lane that goes back to back.
Are you talking about off?
Yeah,
That share was just.
the vacant land between Ladder and John Rock.
I got you now. I was just thrown off because I thought we were still talking about it.
No,
We had a conversation on it.
These duplexes, I was thinking, where are they gonna put four duplexes on?
He's actually looking at three. That's a rezoning as well, but that's what I've been doing. Two would be up front and one he's trying to fill in that ditch behind.
Duplexes, right? I'm trying to spit it out. Not get it.
This is just all, the only thing official is the zoning request and then. There's just these. Questions or concerns of the. They're supposed to present formal funds, which is kind of like the.
All right, we had 92 calls for service in January, 29 calls for assistance for other agencies, but fire law enforcement, 8 reports, 4 arrests. Drove 6 citations, 15 warnings, 1 ordinance violation, 3 cars, 4 WIs, vehicle mileage. The bottom, everything I'll highlight is that 2020 had some work done, to handle all that, but others up and running, fixing, basically, but when it comes to equipment, nothing to update. I don't, we're pretty good with set of those right now. Training, any state mandated training has been assigned, and I got 3 employer consulting online. So
basically over the top for this mandated training. Only other thing is, last month I brought up the reappropriation request, although I know we spoke about just how to handle it, so I'll let you, directly explain what you guys want to do.
So I guess we'll start with that. So after speaking with the 180, so the $3,500 for public safety and had a concern, correct me if I'm wrong, was that obviously public safety money was in from the Kinley. Anyway, be able to fund that $3,500. So the $3,500 is essentially what we got shorted because of some issues from the LGF. So he was asking for that that $3,500 essentially to be, input back in the public safety. Well, after speaking with Wayne, it doesn't sound like that's really a feasible option for us to do. If an option we came up with, and was essentially to tell Grant that we would have that $3,500, he would track that before we do the money, and that whenever we had an expense come up that he wanted to use a portion of that money for, one that the general fund.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I just go back. Yeah, sounds good.
So
It all depends on that. How many helicopters?
we're very
Helicopters and all that.
very thought about that too. As you guys know, the schools I have, I use both for the police side and the fire side. You have some major work under that part. First, the transmission out of it. You gotta have the transmission for the part. And then gotta check any light that came. And it's leaking oil. If they back to the mechanic, found out that we had to do another $3,600 for that. That is a shared expense between. We share that expense between the town and the central fire district. So we pay essentially that. After talking to the mechanic, he assured me that he didn't see any reason that he was inside that industry, that it was very, very clean, everything looked very good. But we should be able to get several, what do you consider several years, good year out of it. That car, and we're gonna drive it to the fall. That car probably not was what we had to do. But at least it's sharing the cost. But then I through that. Gonna keep that car for a long.
All these things are going to nothing forward. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying we'll
I they can say with the cost I have next year.
Forever back in our town and
not causing chaos, maybe more than nuisance being addressed. Not on both ends. It'll be handled, it's top, if you say that. He's in the post office, and also the construction site with all the new houses, we've been made aware. Five counties away, well, whenever we're in the so I know I'm making extra trouble tonight, I might check out anyway, so. We're on, he's not falling, he's not straggling falling, so. He's close, I don't know where he's staying, but he's close, he got picked up by someone picked up at post office, I got video of it. Oh, yeah, that's part of the problem. Apparently that. A lot other than that, bring up just the front sign, I want to schedule a meeting with maybe someone from state or whoever, come out here and maybe. Moving forward with sign up front. I haven't moved forward and I didn't get it. Everybody's kind of get on it together. Maybe get someone in and get me.
Yeah, for the police sign.
That'll be for the police in town, so there's for the main front, so it'll be for utilities, police in town. So I like a good example of Brazil on the front of the building and some there where they had they kind of similar to those, except they had an all one sign, but it's larger and covered pretty much the whole corner of the wall. 40. Something similar to that just to show, hey, we're here, this is where town hall is, this is where utility is, just to have something to show off 40.
I think that's real important, and I would be interested in getting involved in you guys with that sign as well. I think it's important too, because a lot of people, you know, obviously if you're speeding down Main Street, you may be aware that there's a police force or whatever, but other than that, people kind of don't know. And I would think that if you have a sign as well as a door, and I know you guys last or two times ago, I was in town and you guys had turned somewhere into a little station for you. I don't know if there's a sign on that door. Is there a sign on that door? Or
No, where are we speaking of first?
where you guys made your little?
Oh, no, yeah.
I think that somewhere, because obviously like back addressing the fella going into the post office, I think he chooses 1101 to go into the post office on Saturday nights because, you know, and I'm not saying that being funny, I believe he's really watching and knows the routine. So I think that hours, like, it kind of sucks, and that's something that I would try to figure out, like maybe on your door, you maybe don't put your hours, or maybe have a phone number that's a contact, only because people will pay attention to those hours. And, you know, let's face it, I mean,
Right.
we're all kids once. If we knew at 11 they go to sleep, we'll sneak out the window. So it's kind of that concept. So I think that, but the sign I think is real important, so people know that there is that presence. And then if you have a sign on your actual door that says this is the department, and maybe they can or can't get in at that time, but if there's a phone number, you know, like how the old volunteer fire department was, it rang and whoever picked up, but it would be generated to you guys of who picked up for those things. I don't know if you already have something like that in place. I have no idea.
We put out online on the website and Facebook that the contact the dispatch, because if we're not on, they will send whoever deputies in this district, and if we're on, we will be the primary duty center. So basically, when we're on, it's us. Whenever we're not on, we cover them. That's why we tell them to call dispatch, because we don't have set hours. Our hours change with them.
Yeah, correct.
Every week is different. Same with them, same with me. You know, it's just, it changes up. It's just we're on 24/7, so it's hard to have a sense schedule.
Yeah, it is. When I'm in town, you can give my number.
Here.
Let me know on that sign thing though, what you guys can put together ideas or talk to, and then reach out to Tommy and we would be very interested in helping you guys make that happen.
Appreciate it. We'll get there. Thank you very much.
Like a moment ago, but we discussed about possibly getting a bulk fuel tank for have a bulk diesel tank. Just like the fire department has a bulk diesel tank. You know, as a fire department, we did that specifically so that we had our fuel here at the station, and that way something major we had a major outage. We're able to block, we could not get to the fuel station, but power outage, we couldn't get to the fuel station, power was out. We could still get gas, we could still put our hard costs. Something that we never really brought up and thought about before. We haven't had any major issues with it. But they will not charge us anything for the bulk event. That's free. Some metering systems they do have out there available. Because the idea is that we would share that. We would share that thing with the fire department. So obviously, we have to have a way of we do it to stay out there, so no cars taking fuel out. And they do have those options. I got with Children actually already have a system. I did look at some other fuel man out there, available, about $38. So the key fobs are assigned to vehicles, and then got the key fob, you fill up, and it sends the data. Depending on how much you actually got.
It also tell you, we can find that people and their link them.
The school corporation will do the same thing through Keystone, and it also involves the miles. The miles and the miles.
The nice thing, if we get pricing back from Keystone, is that Keystone will fill us up. Keystone will do based on what we pull out the tank, they will do it. Give it spots for them.
You put it in the fire department probably for them to do this, and that's good.
Yes. Yeah, the idea is we put it right next to the ball, easier. That's the easiest place for us to get in now.
Great, so I'm assuming they're responsible for the tank and part of it.
Yep.
And then what about power? Do they split that in the middle or?
Power. We started with power. So
I like the idea. I do like that. I like the idea of having gas on fire in the heater, because all that is our guys have gas, if you're working on the day, you get another license. There have been people who are cars that are not working and stuff like that. I just,
You still have cars on.
yeah, I just don't want to boil the lawn from the fire department town, you know, I don't want anybody Gary's going up personal truck, stuff like that. And
Well, you wouldn't have a car, and if you did it like the school board, if you're paying to your mileage.
Man, Gary.
Like, you have a car, and you have to put in your mileage every time. If your mileage does not reflect what it should, if it's the wrong direction, it's on your car, what's the change that?
or there's someone like that. Keep track of my lease through the occasion, I'll use my personal, my work out for personal, somebody I forget. Personally.
You guys on what Jeremy says, like having kind of, I guess, what Bobby said too, is having cars available, because there is chances where we can get in pursuit, if we can go in Illinois and the right gas, and then we take the cars away. Well, that's a lot of money to get there, getting founders to bring the gas there, and hopefully make it back to the tank.
what did it cost us to keep the cars? Yeah. I think my standpoint on it is knowing that we don't have to rely on fuel station. Just in like if it's something major, had disaster, something happened, you know, the firehouses, we put the backup generator. It's still gonna have power. You know, 10 vehicles can still get fuel. Police part vehicles can still get.
So we can be secretary, so if we weren't we wanted to keep what we have now.
Yeah.
And there's another. I'm just trying to think forward, just an idea.
Well, the school corporation has Keystone at the main base, the hub, but then you can still use the other Keystone, the Margaret and the Birch Street. So like if you had something, you had to go all the way in town to turn stuff into the courthouse and go on field, you can still go to the Keystone on Birch Street. So it's not, it's like, not a, I mean, you can have it, appreciate it.
Keystone Park.
Yeah.
Oh.
So he,
Yeah.
I'll say no decision tonight as everybody.
yeah,
She gets the advices, advices act and.
We had to talk at some point, and back to the y'all. Something you want to do.
All that.
Can I ask some more questions about the 10?
Yes.
I think Tommy had told me, I heard somewhere that they're gonna take down the old house on the corner here at Main and Ayers.
There's first.
Who does, who's taking out these homes? Is it you guys yourselves or?
No, there was a few that we did do last year. One at Ayers. That is.
So that's a bid thing that they'll be doing the county.
So the bids we did.
You just don't know when they're gonna do it.
Yeah.
And then, okay, like, you know, I don't think it's a secret. There's a lot of shitholes here in Sealyville that if we could get people, like, we'd be interested in it. In circumstance like that, I don't know what they're gonna do with that house, but just so that it's known. I know there's a lot of setback rules that everybody has in today for building a new home at 25 feet in the front and the back and 5 feet on the side. You're not gonna meet that requirement there at all. So, but we would be interested in anything that to beautify this town. Where do we go to make sure these variants would happen to, if we were able to get our hands on some of these lots that are smaller to be able to, you know, get a variance?
So most of those all go through. Because we have an interoperable agreement that we don't have. We can't necessarily have for many committee and everything. So we go through the county. Then typically the way it works for city control is it goes in front of area planning when you're requesting a variance. And then they reach out to us and say, hey, they're requesting a variance. We checked into it. We did all the paperwork. It looks good to us. Are you guys okay? And then.
Because, and the reason I ask it and say it like that is because if you tear down the houses, which a lot of them do need to be torn down, but you're also going to lose that revenue if another home doesn't go back up there, just like the fellow was talking earlier about the percentage and the hikes, so forth. The more you're losing and not being able to rebuild and draw people back in the community, it's great to get the you know, disgusting looking stuff out, but it'd be nice to be able to build back new and keep them coming in as much as possible to build the community back up and still create revenue instead of just a bunch of empty lots. So that was my theory on that. So, and then, you know, obviously you drive around, you see the certain ones. And I think last time we were in town or at a meeting and we discussed like ways in our area that they do it for kind of, you know, people that's living unconditionally and it's, you know, everybody owns their land. They should be able to do what they want to a point. But it's like if I stand out in front of somebody driving down the road, I've restricted their way of life and I've gotten in the way of it. And I think that with a lot of these houses, there's got to be a way to enter something in a legal way to say, look, if you're living without water or sewer and this is continuing, and your place is a disaster, it's affecting everyone around you. And how you can create an ordinance or something to start making these folks do something or forcing them out. And I know it sounds terrible to say, but I mean, it's pretty unfair what they're doing to the community.
Oh, I don't disagree with you at all, Terry. We spent a lot of time last year going over all ordinances and making some changes to them. Bring it, take off, bring it all. Sue, myself, we're gonna get those extremely hard. We have not. Been a lot of green, obviously, legal fees. And I think it's personally my intention that, to make sure we have a better way of tracking the problem houses that we have. And if they're not responding, taking the board.
There are something, there is a process that. They're in the process, of course, the people, got to keep. They got to keep up on it. It took them 5 years to acquire property, but they admitted they dropped the ball a couple times, but once they rolled on that, the only thing with theirs was they sent letters out, basically clean your property up. Anytime they showed improvement, you were back to square one. And the guy they took said he just got good stuff. I mean, he had junk out to the road on all four sides. But
Yeah, and we were into that same situation.
About a week ago, West Terre Haute, police chief and another officer invited us over to West Terre Haute and took us around and showed us where they've been doing what I'm talking about. I don't really know their whole procedure, but one of them, the officers, also the city manager there. So they're doing something in a pretty fast process and taking these homes down, and they're even actually keeping it in-house for the city manager to assign, and he's even participate in demoing the homes and getting them to try to rebuild. So I can't think of the fellow's name offhand, but I have his card back at the place we're staying. So maybe it'd be somebody you guys could just reach out to and talk to about maybe some of their efforts of how they're doing it and pulling it off, because it's obviously working, because they're trying to entice us to come over there and do stuff in their area. We'd love to be doing it here a lot more so, and will always this be our top priority, but they're doing something, so it might not be a bad idea to reach out and find out what they're doing. If it helps in any way, I'll pass that information on to.
We've also talked about what the question and what service, somebody doing have to get involved with that. Something I'd like to see there. In this spring, when we get the housing fund, we don't. Set that. Please, please, and everything.
Yeah, it isn't to be mean, it's just respectful, everybody being respectful of one another.
Because we talked about this. State, is that open provision for owner occupied, where we can help folks fighting on the house and stuff like that. But I've talked to the grandmother a couple times. Somebody. He's.
I think years ago, we received money like that. It's,
Yes, and,
what that all been.
or, well, she said something might change with override next year, she's gonna check into it about that particular company, but the way they have it worded.
They've had a lot of trouble with this particular program. Folks who hire the contract who never build.
Yes.
Yes.
And then it falls back on the great writer and so directly.
Now we fall back. to the writer. She
Well, I think the big part of it was someone has to oversee all the projects. And typically,
Favoritism.
typically for ours, these other, like other grant projects, she has been kind of our overseer of the paper. And I think that's what she is concerned about, is that if she would have to oversee all these contractors, we have to manage everything. Just a way that they have that grant. So, like, so I'm really talk about that.
Yeah, we just have multiple conversations, just, just trying to figure out, just trying to see what they can, so we would oversee it and.
That's just the option of doing that.
Our company actually, what we're talking about in Florida, we do the entire state for similar programs. And they have, because what they'll do is, and this would work for you guys, actually, it would, is, the government funds it, but you have to have a staff of people that's, get so much of that money as well. And then there's so much awarded towards a house. And a lot of times is how they get most of their customers, the people that come in and apply. And they're anywhere from 50,000 to 100,000 of repairs that's allotted. And they don't pass out the money, obviously, until they see the work done. And there's about 4 people that kind of run that program. But what happens is you have to spend so much before they release more. But when the code violations are issued, or they go knocking on somebody's door and they find out, well, this person really doesn't want to live this way, they just can't afford it, or their health or something like that, then this program's fantastic for that. And there's always a lot of people that apply, but this is much larger areas in Florida. But here, being Sealyville, if you could get in with that program and do it, that would really be a key thing, because there's people that just can't afford to fix that. Now, there's people that just trashy, but there's people that cannot afford to do it. And that program would be a tremendous thing to help beautify, because they will do roofs, windows, new ACs. They'll even do kitchens and bathrooms to make, because it's a health and safety issue is how they refer to it. Correct. For at least 2 years prior to your application of it. And you must live there if you chose to sell it after it, it's basically a proration thing. If you stay in it for the 5 or 10 years, depending on if it was emergency money, of usually 20,000 is emergency, anything over that becomes a long-term, and it's essentially like a loan, but you never pay it back unless you sell it. And then it's prorated based on either a 5-year or a 10-year span. But if they stay that duration, they owe nothing. Okay. But they don't get to pick their contractors. You get a group of contractors, they walk it with whoever did the first initial walkthrough. They bid on it, it goes to the lowest bidder, or the next that's at least within 10% of the lowest bidder. And that works out to where you're not getting somebody just taking money. And I would suggest never giving any contractor money until the project's done. They gain amnesia really quick.
Joe, any other public comment, Tim?
Okay,
Probably next motion to adjourn.
Did you have anything else?
I never did mention that. That's all right. I didn't speak up quick enough. She was gonna come and check things out. The weather went to heck on it. Just let me know ahead of time when you want to come and you don't need to even be there. All right.
We may walk the back then, but.
Yeah, sure, yeah. I got that easement. I got 50-foot easement into that too, so you know.
No, no walk.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, the weather change.
Well, I know it's been awful. You didn't do anything. Yeah, one day. It's coming, but.
You don't get ate by that big mean dog.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Thank y'all. You don't get to render anything.
Actually, something real quick.
Probably.
Hey, you're surprised it'll be a week below the